Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage. Today we're working on the 34 Forgotten Hot Rod project, and we are ready to kind of do like the 39 and get this thing starting with a key or a switch inside the car so that we can drive it around in and out of the shop, and makes it a little easier to jockey things around. So I actually went ahead and picked up a little different than the 39. 34, we're keeping pretty minimal amount of electronics inside the car. It has all mechanical gauges. We're going to add a heater to it, and of course we'll have our headlights, turn signals, all that stuff. There's not a lot else going on with it, so I went a slightly different route with this car, and I did the same thing in the Free T, and it actually worked out pretty nice. On Amazon there are a bunch of companies selling these little fuse boxes that are just like 10 circuit or little mini fuse boxes, and they're super cheap. They're like, I don't know, 20 bucks or less or something like that, and you basically run your power wire to them, and then it's just like a fancy fuse holder, which is basically what the car had originally. It just had a couple of little like glass fuses and like a junction area where wires ran and connected. So this will be very similar, but slightly modern. We're going to hide it underneath the fuse or underneath the dashboard, so you can't really see it, but it'll make it nice and easy to just swap fuses in and out. So I'm going to work on getting that mounted today. I'm going to work on getting some of the ignition stuff all wired up and spliced in, ran to the starter, ignition, everything else, and then we'll get the that new gas pedal hooked up, and then we should be good to take it in and out of the shop with the key, which will be really awesome. Okay, so I'll just show you guys where I kind of hid the fuse box underneath here. I just started wiring stuff up. I got my main power feed that's running in there, and I got this little fuse box just hidden up underneath it here. You can't see it obviously when you're standing looking at the car, and there's a little cover that goes over it to cover everything, of course. You can see it's just a fancy fuse holder basically. So I got my top circuit there coming up is where that's going to that actually feeds the ignition switch, and then I have this main power feed with the fused inline fuse set up there that runs down to the battery and actually feeds that little mini fuse box. And I have everything I'm wiring up. If you guys don't remember that little GM switch there, so got that all checked out as far as the continuity goes and everything with the switch in the different positions. So we're pretty much good. I'm gonna start running my wire, which I have, you can see, kind of runs under the dash and then around over there. I have it loomed down to the starter solenoid, and we have our battery cable run, which is under this this cover here where the battery sits. I got to actually pick up a battery that fits in here. I got to take some measurements and find a 12-volt battery that'll fit in there. That's one of my next things before we finish wiring everything up here. But I just wire a couple more things up, and we'll be ready to start turning it over. One of the fun things about this car is it came with a ton of different parts, so I've been dying to put this on. But this is old Cal customized, but Cal custom chrome coil cover, 89 cents. It's still got the Still got the receipt in it. It was open, like Larry was thinking about putting it on, but he didn't get around to it. So we're gonna put this thing on too while we're messing with the coils. Even still got the receipt from, let's see, August 27th, 1970. He paid 89 cents and it was 6 cents sales tax, which is kind of funny. So pretty cool. But I sort of have the coil set where it's supposed to go. It was just kind of laying in the engine bay. It's got the little chrome bracket on it still, but try and loosen the bracket up. We'll slip our coil cover on, hold our coil down finally so it's not bouncing around the engine. Oh yeah. Shiny new coil cover. Slip our little bracket back on. Alright, so went and got the battery for the 34. Found one at Walmart actually that we social distanced, wore a mask, and went in with a tape measure, measured up a battery, and found one that's a 12-volt battery that should have sufficient cranking amperage and also fits in our little tray there, which is really great. So I started looking at the battery cables that were on the car. Didn't really look at them that closely before, but obviously the battery cable was replaced at some point because this is like a vinyl covered battery cable. It's like one you just buy at the auto parts store. It's already pre-made. It's not horrible, but the terminal that slips over the battery is kind of a little corroded and eaten away, and I think this battery cable is a little puny. Maybe I'm overkill, but when I like to rewire cars, I like to give them beefy battery cables and grounds to help it with the cranking and everything else. So I am always looking for this heavy like welding wire. Patty and Tim were nice enough to donate this. Patty's father had a huge early Ford parts collection, and I buy from them every now and then. And I was at the property digging around a little while ago last summer, and I found this roll of old welding wire that her dad probably found at an auction, and I just had sitting there because he was doing the same stuff I was doing, and they were nice enough to sell it to me or put it in with my pallet parts I was buying. So I have a huge section of this. I used it on the T, we used it on the 39, I'm using it on the 34. It's yellow, but you know what, I usually wrap it in this cloth friction tape in the areas where you can see it, and it kind of disappears and it's fine. So, but this is 2 gauge and it's heavy duty like welding wire. So this is the stuff that's really good when you go to the auto parts store and you get those puny cables. Especially that I've had some trouble like on the T. I tried to use, before I got this stuff, I was out of my normal wire, and I tried using some cable that I got online, and it was like just poorly made, like Chinese overseas wiring, and the strands were really fine on it, and even though it was rated to like 2 gauge, it was just junk. So this is good old heavy welding wire, and it works really well. So I'm going to match up the piece that we had there with length. I'm using these this style terminal on the car that has a little wing nut that you can put the little terminals on. It makes it nice if you want to add anything powered off of the battery. It's a little more simple rather than trying to stack it on the clamp section. So I'm going to use one of these on the battery. So we just got to put these little terminals on there, and it should be good to go. So I'm going to make this, and I'm going to redo the ground. It has the old original braided ground that's still on the car, but it's pretty frayed and looking pretty rough itself. So I'm going to redo both of those so we have good, clean grounds and positive connections. And once I hook that up, we should be able to see if the ignition switch turns over and if we can get it to fire. All right. Alright, so I got my battery cables all routed and hooked back into the car. And the battery I ended up getting is a Series 26R, or Group 26R was the one that I got. Seemed to work well, and it kind of put the battery post where I wanted, and most importantly, it fits the it fits in the stock box here, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to have to put a new box in or relocate the battery. I kind of like the idea of just leaving it where it's at. And then we just added those extra long cables just to be sure that we'd be okay. So put our handle down here. Like I said, I put this style in here that has the wing nut that you can take the cables off with the wing nut, which is kind of handy. Alright, that's in there. So I'm just going to tighten my cable terminals down here and be ready to give her a test spin. Alright, checked all the battery voltage, all that stuff, and at the ignition we seem to be good, but we'll see if it'll start here. Now we just need fuel. No fuel. There we go. Fuel pump lost prime. Not bad. See. Yeah. All right. Success. Love it. All right, so big day. Another big moment with this car is getting the car to start with the GM key in the ignition and our newly painted dashboard. We can work the throttle with in the car. We can sit in the seats. It's sort of like a real car almost. So I'm really excited now that we got this going. Just like the 39, and the way I'm trying to work this is bounce back and forth and get each of these cars so that I can at least start them and drive them in and out of the shop, and if I need to jockey something around, or if I need more room to work on the 39, I could start this, move it out. Both those cars are at that point, which is really awesome. The 39 is a little further ahead as far as some of the mechanical stuff goes. We have a gas tank in it. The brakes are all hooked up and redone. So one of the next things I'm going to do in this car, as far as what I need to do, is the gas tank. One of these next videos, we're going to open it up, see what's in there, see if we can just flush it out, or if we got to pull it and totally replace it. I'm not sure yet. Fingers crossed that it's okay, but we have no idea. I haven't even opened the gas cap yet. But what's actually going to happen next, just because of having help from friends, Kevin from True Shine that helped us with the interior is freed up, and he said he's actually able to start working on the paint and bringing the paint back. So you guys can stop yelling at me finally to wash the damn car. So we are going to be working on, in probably the next video on this car, washing the car and doing some polishing of the paint. I can't wait to see how nice it comes up. It's just going to be really awesome to see the car shining again. It's going to be multiple steps to actually clean all the chrome and do all that stuff, but just to get the paint shining and looking good will be really awesome. Now I can start the car, move it out, and we can work on it in the driveway as far as washing it and stuff goes. So thank you guys for following along. We're going to be driving this thing really soon. Thanks guys. Catch you later. So there's blown out mufflers.